All right, we are broadcasting, guys. If you have joined us, please hold on one second. We are going to go live on Facebook before we make any introductions here so that everybody can make sure and enjoy and learn who this wonderful man is. So give me one second here. We're about there. Let's see here. Coming on in. All right, we're good there. Public, and we should be live. All right. Dan Stewart, Mr. Happy, tell us who you are. We want to get this rolling because I'm excited to introduce what you guys do for agents. So who are you? What do you do?
Oh, awesome. Well, thanks, Gabe, first for having me on. Definitely appreciate that. So hi, everybody. My name's Dan Stewart, and I started a little company called Happy Grasshopper about 9 years ago. And the thing we do that's really special and unique is create conversations for our members.
We don't want conversations. What do you mean conversations?
Come on, absolutely we do. And you know what I would say, Gabe? Everything valuable that happens in life happens in a conversation, right?
Yep.
Think about it. Our relationships, people we love, the education that we get, the education we give, the coaching, the training, the teaching, those aha moments, they almost always come as the result of or within a conversation.
Right.
So my belief is that conversations lead to contracts, and I just want to help you have more of them. That's the plan.
Amen, brother. So what do you do? How do you make this happen? Tell us, because
well,
a lot of people don't know who you are.
Okay, sure. Well, let me break it down. So every single thing in the world today sends content. Like we live in a magical time where your toaster can remind you it needs more bread while you're out shopping, right? I mean, that's kind of a crazy thing. And yet we're all kind of starved for a message that really works. So the challenge isn't being able to send a message, it's being able to send a message that people will actually engage with.
Right.
And the good news is that we can absolutely do that, and doing it requires that we do some things differently. So this is where the rubber meets the road, right? Everything can send content. To send content that works, you have to take the time to help that reader understand why they should care about what they're actually reading. And you need to make it very clear to them what the next desired step is.
Right.
Sometimes it's just a simple reply, right? Other times it's something much more detailed.
And as agents, we're great at talking, but sometimes we're not great at creating content, and definitely not great at creating content that's different or stands out. And that's where you guys take over for us, right?
That's correct. Yeah. And the way we do that is pretty brute force. We have a whole team of writers, and we assign a writer to a member. We interview that member. We get to know their personality, their voice, their market conditions. And then we create the right content specific for that person.
Wait, so it's not one size fits all. You're saying when you say interview the member, you mean if Susie Smith at ABC Realty says, "All right, Dan, Happy Grasshopper, do this for me," you're interviewing them to get
absolutely
sweet.
Yeah. So think of it this way, Gabe. Susie Smith at ABC Realty, right?
Yep.
She has past clients in Sphere that refer her probably most of the business that she does. Well, what if we could help that brand new lead that comes in feel the same way about Susie that those past clients in Sphere already do, right?
Yep.
So that's possible. You just have to take the time to really get to know Susie's story and further what it was those past clients in Sphere really loved about her.
Right.
That's where the magic happens.
Oh, I love it. And I know you're going to jump in and show us some examples and kind of take us through this journey. Before you do that, guys, if you're listening and you have questions for Dan, right at the bottom, there's a Q&A section. Click on that, type in your question. We want to answer these live as he's talking so we can make sure that everything's making sense for you so you get the most out of this. So
yeah, absolutely.
So, I want to learn more about this because I love the fact that it's custom content. It's not just you guys wrote up a drip campaign and you just send it out for everybody. This is about that agent, their area, and their business.
Yeah. It's funny. I like to joke around that if I was good, I'd write just one email, right? And then everyone would use it and it would always work. But
I think I know a lot of agents that actually do that.
Yeah, that's right. You see that where, somebody will sell the same campaign over and over and over.
Right.
And it's wonderful that it works for them.
Right.
But what about you? Right?
Absolutely. Well, and I mean, you and I travel the country. We see each other at all of these different events talking to agents. And I get the privilege of getting to help agents and dive into their databases a lot of times. And when I'm looking at the drip campaigns, and I'm guilty of this as well, I'll be honest about it, is there's only so many things that I'm comfortable talking about, and real estate is the majority of it. And when you guys are doing a lot of this custom content, I've seen stuff. It's not even necessarily real estate specific. Like
Yeah,
it's just so unique, but it still creates that
right.
conversation that you were talking about earlier.
You see, I love that you bring this up, right? Because like I'll get personal here for a moment, okay?
Yeah.
I've got 3 kids. I've been married for almost 24 years. And
Nice.
that like life-changing relationship started with just a silly little conversation about nothing, right?
That's awesome.
It doesn't often matter how the conversation starts. It matters where you take it.
Yep.
And so like I'm going to share my screen here. I'll just
Yeah,
show
go
you.
for it.
Yeah, let me do that here real quick. So I'm going to show you guys, I'm going to jump around a bit and show you a few different things, but more than anything else, we've built our reputation for producing like ridiculously amazing results from just simple little conversational email. Like this is Ed Sutton. He's a broker in Connecticut, and he's been our member for about 4 years. So we recently sent a message for him about Marie Kondo. Do you know who Marie Kondo is?
I don't.
Yeah, she's got a show on Netflix called Tidying Up with Marie Kondo,
Okay.
right? So she's a trending personality. People are talking about her. So our strategy is to send content about interesting things that are happening now. So he sends out this message. He gets 2 listings in a message about Marie Kondo that's like barely 2 paragraphs long. And, you know, we get story after story after story like this. So the thing that, if nothing else, your audience needs to take away is that database nurturing is not what they think it is. Like it's not just 33 touches a year of any sort of kind, right?
What?
It's not just, well, I put them on my quarterly magazine mail out,
I
right?
send them a market update every month, Dan.
Yeah, gosh, that's a good thing. That's not bad. It's just
Not
not
enough.
enough.
Not
It's
enough.
not enough, right? And in some cases, it can be really disrespectful, Gabe. Like
Yep.
that sounds weird, but let's imagine that I'm your client and we've been on this massive emotional journey called my real estate transaction.
Yep.
And now you treat me just like every other lead in your database. And I don't feel like you're even aware that you're sending me this stuff because it's so obvious that you're not. That's a fail. I mean, that's a fail in a big way.
It's huge. It's something that I love to talk about too at these events. Is when I'm talking to agents, it's not your journey, it's theirs. Right.
Yes.
But we make it our
Thank you.
journey. So we talk to everybody
Thank
about
you.
the exact same journey and the same roadmap.
Right.
Well, no,
Yeah.
everybody's going in different directions. It's their journey. So that's what I love about this.
Yeah. Well, you know what? There's a model for that in writing. It's called the hero's journey. Okay. And it's easy to say, well, I care about real estate more than anything else. So I'm going to talk about real estate all the time with people. But people generally only care about real estate when they care about real estate, like
Yep.
when that transaction
Yep.
is happening. And so if you can demonstrate that you care enough to keep in touch with them over those vast amounts of time when a transaction is not pending, that's a huge win. That's where your referral business really picks up. That's
awesome.
where you get off the peaks and valleys of a all too common real estate career,
Yep.
and you get the trajectory going in the right direction. So I've been thinking a lot about what I want to share, and I'm happy to take any questions that pop up the way they come in. I think the best place to start is kind of from a high-level overview of the ways that we make a difference in the world.
Perfect.
So, you know, at Happy Grasshopper, we start with organization. Because if your database is a wreck, like if you can't tell a past client from someone you met in line at Starbucks or an IDX lead from 5 years ago, like, whoa, we need to wrap our arms around that and help you with that. And then we need to design and implement a communication strategy that's unique for each of those different types of contacts, right?
Yep.
Now, automation is a huge force today. I mean, we all know that in business, automation can be even more valuable than an employee sometimes because it's working 24/7, 365. We're asleep, the automation can still be working. The question, though, is what should be automated? Not everything, right? You should automate the things that lead to you getting to do your highest and most valuable thing.
Your dollar productive activities.
That's the one, exactly. You don't want to automate the thing that only you should be doing, right? And my belief is that if we look at real estate as an industry, we have got to win the things that humans are better at than computers can be, right? They're going to beat us every time at computer stuff. We have to beat them at the human stuff. So almost every platform provides some level of organization and automation today. And yet without the right content loaded in there, It's a lost opportunity.
Yep.
You can automate bad messaging, and that does no one any good. It actually harms you, right? You can organize.
I'm going to pause you there just a quick second,
Yeah.
because what you just said is bad messaging can harm you. And guys, I mean, you're listening to this as agents. We are great with people. We were talking about doing your dollar productive activities. When I'm doing those deep dives into people's system, in fact, Friday we were just doing one. Can't tell you how many times we see drip campaigns and emails, email templates, text templates that are going out with poor grammar that just don't make sense. There's so many things that we're not doing well, but we're hearing that we have to have them on so many contacts and drips, but we're not doing it right. This is what you're taking that all out of their hands.
There's a lot of pressure, I think, for us to do all the things we have to do. And, your customers like ours are people who get things done, right? So it's tempting to build a list and check some things off and, I'm being productive. And yet messaging is one of those areas where you've got to slow down to speed up, right? It would be a lot more profitable for us to create one campaign and sell it to everyone.
Right.
It just can't possibly produce the best results.
No,
So
you can do it faster, you can do it right.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, so let's talk really about what is effective when it comes to database nurturing. You've got to have the combination of message and mechanics. Okay, so if we talk about the technological alignment between FirePoint and Happy Grasshopper, that's an example of the mechanics being aligned, right? A lead is captured by FirePoint, it's transmitted to Happy Grasshopper. We can then send the right custom content that we've written for our member.
And on behalf of the member, on behalf of that agent.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, in a way that it looks like the agent wrote the message themselves. Yep. It feels very, very human. So, that's a pretty good spot for me to jump around here. I'm gonna show you some content just to set some people ablaze here, right? So this is the kind of thing that we get in our inbox every single day, right? And the moment our brains see this sort of content, what do? Like immediately we're either hitting delete or our brain is saying it's safe to ignore.
Or worse yet, unsubscribe.
Yeah, and I mean, you do not want to be safe to ignore in the inbox. When you go to your inbox today, like me, you're more than likely saying, what do I need to pay attention to? What do I need to pay attention to? What's important? And personal communication is almost always important, right? So what is more important for you in your real estate career than maintaining personal communication with people who are in a position to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? I have no idea.
Right.
There's nothing more important than that. So for God's sakes, don't send this kind of content that just makes them go away. Like, we don't want to do that. Send personal communication that breaks the pattern, right? That helps you stand out as being unique and different in their inbox. That's really what's going to win. And before I show you samples of how that actually works and why that works, we gotta get back to this slide here for a moment, that message and mechanics part. It's really easy to get so focused on the mechanics. Like, I can't tell you how many times, Gabe, I start an engagement with a client and they're able to easily identify their 16 different lead sources and what that initial correspondence needs to be. They have a whole vision of what this is supposed to work out and look like. And yet it's just what it's supposed to look like.
Right.
So there's a difference between that ethereal image and the actual numbers on the ground, right? So you've got to pay attention to the data. You've got to recognize that we send hundreds of millions of messages per year. We don't know another way to do it than to reference what's actually working and then send more of what works and less of what doesn't.
Right.
So there's a magic thing when you get the message and the mechanics right. You can create an emotional experience for the reader. And let's think about that. Does emotion exist in real estate? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Right? Is it always a positive emotion? Absolutely not, right? There's so many times where your client feels like the floor is just evaporated beneath their feet and they have no idea what's going to happen.
Well, they don't do this that often, right? Like they're not doing this, so it's going to be emotional.
They don't, exactly. And so you're in a position where you know where all the curves are in this roller coaster called a real estate transaction. And you can set expectations for them about what happens when, right? You can do those sorts of things. So there's just no reason you should ever struggle for what to say or what to communicate. You just have to map out that journey that they're on.
Right.
So, a lot of agents can relate to the concept of their business feeling like a roller coaster, right? The peaks and valleys, and we tell ourselves, oh, well, that's just what it is to be in real estate. I think we're looking at this the wrong way. I really do, because a roller coaster, yeah, it can be a thrilling ride. It's also a highly designed, systematic experience, right? There's not an inch of that ride that's not fully engineered, that's not fully thought out, that's not absolutely expected.
Right.
Okay. So the key learning here is that the ride doesn't start when you get on the coaster. The ride starts when you get online for the coaster, right?
Okay.
Maybe I've registered online at a portal or at a FirePoint site or an open house. Maybe I could be any of them, dozen or so different lead sources. What experience can you deliver for them while they're waiting online that cements them as becoming your client? That's something I've been paying attention to for 9 years.
Yep.
So, I have a very clear idea of the sort of content that does that.
Okay.
Okay. So first thing, let's recognize the terrain that we're competing against. When people board your roller coaster, like these are the ways they're coming in. They're raising their hand, they're potentially becoming your client in one of these means. They need to be treated differently according to the way that they come in. Let's not treat that past client referral or that valuation request the same way we would treat an open house register.
Well, and so you're showing, and you might be getting this, so I'm trying to, hopefully I don't spoil, but you're showing all these different ways or the way that leads, potential clients are registering on websites, and they're not just picking one of these. It's not like they're just going to an open house, or they're just calling on a sign, or they're just getting force registered, right?
That's exactly right. Thank you for bringing that up, because, if we look at the math, people are registering in an average of 10 places, 8 to 12 months before they're not ready for a transaction, but ready to talk to an agent about having a transaction.
So 10 places, and I tell people usually it's on 4 to 6. So this is the first time I've seen it as high as 10. And it's not surprising to me because they're everywhere.
They are. Yeah, they are. And we're catching leads for thousands of agents and teams, millions and millions of leads we catch and process each year. And we're able to see how often that person shows up from different lead sources, right? If they're registering with the same information, we're seeing it show up in multiple places. So it's just a really interesting thing to consider. And, what that means is today we've got 85.5 million searches, like million leads being generated per year for roughly 5.5 million transactions. So, back to that idea of the journey that you want to provide someone,
right?
What journey are they already on? Like if we accept that math, if we accept that that's what the average person is doing, their inbox looks a lot like this, right?
Yep.
They get lots of search updates.
Yep.
And then as they register in more places, they get lots more search updates, right? And the reason for this is a search update is a good and valuable thing that you should be sending.
Agree 100%.
And because they're getting so many search updates from so many different places, this gives you a huge opportunity as an agent to really stand out from all the other agents, right? If you break that pattern in the inbox and you give them a reason to understand what's unique and special about you,
right,
it makes a massive, massive difference.
Yep. Can you do me a favor?
Sure.
Can you go back to that screen where it showed how many websites are registering on? Because something, and if you guys, we've got people that are listening, so they're going to be watching it in the replay. That number right below, 8 to 12, was that the conversion that you're showing time frame? Or like how many months?
8 to 12 months before they're ready to actually talk with an agent.
This is key, and we see it all the time. People coming in that start up PPC or start doing Facebook lead gen, and then sometimes a few weeks in, or even 2 months in, they're like, Gabe or FirePoint, man, these PPC or these Facebook leads, they suck. And it's like, they don't suck.
They don't suck. They're just not ready.
your
They're just not
expectation
ready.
sucks, right? Your follow-up
Yeah.
sucks, or, and it's not me being mean. It's just, this is true, guys. I don't care if it's FirePoint or where it's at. This is what they're doing, right? They are getting on multiple sites early. You don't just typically wake up and go, I'm going to buy a house tomorrow. Right.
Mhm.
So that's what I love about this is people have got to understand. And if you're not willing to nurture and stand out, going back to the other thing, you can't just put them on a saved search, even though it's super important and they should be. That's not what's going to get them to raise their hand in 8 to
Yeah.
12 months. It's what you were saying is you got to figure out how to stand out and make sure that you matter.
Well, I mean, let's put it this way, right? If there are 8 to 10 people that you have an opportunity to engage with, and they all look the same, how do you decide which one to engage with? They probably are the one who reaches out their hand to you first,
Yep.
right? It's time to ask somebody to dance instead of just to hang out back against the wall, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
That's where we are at this point in the transaction.
But Dan, they might say no.
Oh, so what? That's a good thing. Then you've got more time to focus on the people who want to say yes.
You're one step closer to the yes.
Yeah,
100%.
absolutely. Absolutely. And this actually brings up a really good point because sometimes I think people are afraid of the dreaded unsubscribe,
Yep.
right? And this is precisely why we send our content. We don't just create content and then give it to people to send. We send it.
Yep.
So if they unsubscribe from us, so what? Right? They're still getting the search update.
Right.
If
Yep.
they unsubscribe from the search update, so what? They're still getting this really human content from us.
Calls, texts. There's so many. Yep.
There's so many different ways to reach out. And
Yep.
so if we go back to this sea of search updates and the need to stand out against it, like here's what does it. Okay. Every single agent who's listening to this, think about those past clients, those fear, who would refuse to work with anyone else, right? Someone else could offer them a lower commission rate and they're like, nope, Gabe's my guy. I'm only working with Gabe. Those people know something about you that a lot of times you don't know about yourself, right? So the key to having successful content here is to discover that thing that they think is so essential about you and help these new leads or these leads that are in the nurture phase, help them understand what these other clients already know about you.
Yep.
Right? We can transfer that knowledge, but there's not like one special script that does it. This is why we have to go and interview each member and take the time to really understand what their strengths are.
Yeah, that's huge.
So yeah, that's definitely a huge part of what we do, and that's why we create like so many ridiculous results for people, which I will not bore you with. I mean, just look us up online. We have thousands of members and crazy, ridiculous stories like this. 17 transactions on his first email. That's insane. Right? And of course, it was 10,000 old leads.
And do you have some examples of like a couple of like the messages that you guys send out or anything like that?
Yeah.
Like I'd love to show. We got about 8 minutes left. Okay. I want to show them some examples. And while you're pulling that up, I mean, whether you're an agent on a team listening to this, whether you're a team lead, and especially if you're a team lead, right? We're spending all this money on our CRMs and our lead gen and all this. And this is that nurturing. And it's not just the conversion of the new leads that we're all obsessed with. What Dan was just saying is this is even your past clients, your sphere that you want them to buy again.
So let's think about where your contacts are. Like they're all over the place right now. And if we're going to send the right message at the right time, we've got to organize them into the right groups. So let's make this easy. There's 2 kinds of people alive. They know us or they don't. Right? Crazy.
That's deep.
And then they're either ready, not ready, or will never be ready to buy, sell, or invest in real estate with us. Okay? Also, not super deep, right? This is simple. It should be simple because if you're going to communicate with lots of people over long periods of time, you find much more effectiveness in knowing what to say based on the relationship you have with them than you do on the little details that you might have about them, right? So remember, most people most of the time are not ready to have a transaction. So, let's imagine, like this past weekend was Easter. Let's imagine this coming weekend or Mother's Day. So you'll see content like this in your inbox all week long. Mom wants steak, right? Click a button, buy her a gift card, boom, Outback sends it right to mom's inbox. They grow their mailing list and make money, and it's a win for them. It's a win for you. Real estate doesn't get bought or sold with a click yet, right? Nobody's downloading their house.
Right.
So if you're going to nurture these people in your database, like specifically people who know you, right? I would never suggest sending a message like I'm about to show you to strangers. But here's a very happy Grasshopper example of a happy Mother's Day message. And, I know that a lot of people are watching this on Facebook. They can't read the content, so I'll read it to you here.
Thank
It says, "Hi, Gabe. We all know Sunday's Mother's Day, although I'd never heard how they celebrate in Serbia. Have you? They actually tie mom's feet together with string, and she has to negotiate her release by giving her kids presents. How crazy is that? Anyway, hope you have a great weekend. Let me know if you need help with anything. All my best, Dan." Right?
Wait, but you didn't ask if she's available or wants to go look at property.
Yeah, I know. Crazy, right? Crazy. Because here I'm just treating this human being like a human being that I care about. I'm sharing something interesting that's relevant to the moment that it's shared, and I'm inviting them to reach out to me if they need help with something. Okay? So, if you absolutely insist on turning this into a real estate message, I'd say add a PS line that says, "By the way, there are a lot of people who'd love to live in your neighborhood. Do you know anyone who's ready to move?" Right?
I love that you don't have that. And a lot of the messages that I've seen of yours don't.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the fact that it's something else. It's humanizing. Like, I'm all for automation. I feel like in this industry, we're losing sight. And you've heard me say this from stage a million times. We're losing sight that this is a service industry, and
Right.
we're automating ourselves out of business a little bit. And I love that a lot of your messages humanize the agent to the consumer.
For sure. For sure. And, I know we're tight on time. I'm going to zoom here a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
This is the sequence that's most effective for lead conversion, right? It's got to be acknowledged according to the source. You must position yourself so they understand how you're different, and then you've got to nurture them over time, right? So when that's all done, every lead source should be mapped. All your capture mechanisms are known, right? The acknowledgement message unique to the source and to the time of day that the lead is captured. Let's not pretend we're awake at 3 in the morning when that lead comes in, right? Then follow that with positioning and nurturing content. So I'm going to show you just a real quick look here. This is an acknowledgement message. "Thanks for reaching out to me on X," right? In this case, Zillow. "I'll be calling soon. In the meantime, do you prefer text, email, or phone? Best, Jessica. P.S. You can count on me to follow up with you. Call or text." Then there's the phone number, right? So we're setting expectations in two places that Jessica is a professional.
Mm-hmm.
Jessica follows up. And guess what our system's going to do? It's going to follow up, right? So it's a self-fulfilling expectation here for her. Now, after that, we'd shift into the positioning phase where we're going to show them exactly why this particular agent is special. And then after that, it's time to take our foot off the gas, right? This person would have raised their hand if they were that near-term opportunity. We expect that most online leads are long-term opportunities, right?
Yep.
So we shift into the nurturing phase. So let's imagine I've interviewed a client and I find out their ideal customer wants to buy a lakefront home, okay? They love to sell lakefront property and they love the lake themselves. Well, we can feature that in the message, right? Instantly, this agent is not just every other agent out there.
Right.
If I'm shopping for a lakefront property and I get a picture like this in my email, I really have to engage. Like, I feel the need to ask her where she caught that. Which lake was that? I want to know. Like, what even is that? That's a giant, weird looking fish. Like, there's all sorts of things that come from that conversation. First thing is to have the conversation. We've got to create that connection. So that's a pretty good, quick look here at what we're all about, Gabe. I definitely thank you for having me on today.
And this is a highlight, right? So, I know you've created a landing page where people want to learn some more. I think we posted it also in the chat channel. So if you guys want to click on that, there's some information. What I love that Dan has done with his company here, again, is it's humanizing what's going on. And let's face it, as agents, we all suck for the most part at nurturing and following up. It's just true, right? And tools help, with the safe searches, the drip emails and everything, but it's not our strength.
Yeah.
And you bring something to the table in that nurturing and follow up that's so unique. It's customized to that team, to the area. And again, the game is won in the nurture and follow up, because we are not waiting for the most part 8 and 10, 12, 14 months to nurture these people along. So this is insane. And then all of us that are in business today selling homes, we plan on being business for the most part in 3 to 5 years. Your past client nurturing, where we all fall down so much, like you've just got it. It's turnkey for people. So I just love this for agents and teams.
Well, thank you, Gabe. I appreciate your inviting me today. And I did put that page up here. This is where you can just schedule a call with us to evaluate whether or not we're a good fit. I will say that, you know, our service isn't right for absolutely everyone. It's my standard that I will not let you buy our service unless we're 100% sure that it'll work for you. So for that reason, we have no contracts. We're a month-to-month service, and we actually have a 100% happiness guarantee. So if you think we can help you, I'd encourage you to just come here to happygrasshopper.com/firepoint, and let's schedule some time to figure out if we're a good fit.
Yes, thank you, Dan. I really appreciate it. Guys, check them out. Elevate your game, stand out in your market, make sure that you matter. Dan, thank you so much for taking the time, and I'll see you in a couple weeks in DC.
We'll be there.
Awesome,
Absolutely.
man. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks,
Take
Gabe.
care. Bye.